Good evening and welcome to Nashville. I'm Alan Jackson. In all the efforts to round up gang members and criminals who are in our country illegally, and all the protest and pushback that comes with it, very little has been reported about the children. 500,000 unaccompanied children who were brought here and in many cases let loose to fend for themselves. The human traffickers who are taking advantage of them work hard to keep the children out of camera range. So when we saw the recent footage of children being used to harvest marijuana in the fields of California, we wanted to find out more. Many of you have children or grandchildren of your own. You can only imagine what it would be like seeing our kids, thirsty and hungry, being used as cheap human labor, harvesting pot. Well, this is still summertime, and the children should be playing with friends, swimming at the neighborhood pool, or enjoying sports at a summer camp. But as University Dean Pete Peterson said on our show recently, that doesn't happen when the politicians decide to have an open border. Listen to his comments.
That is an ugly part of illegal immigration, is that so many people, especially young people, younger than 18, younger than 15, are being pressed into very difficult labor situations and being taken advantage of both in pay and in work environment.
Well, you may not see it much on camera, but that doesn't mean it's not happened. So with that, I want to welcome back the Border Security Advisor at the Federation for American Immigration Reform, Art Cueto. Welcome back, Art.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I realize that Tom Homan and ICE have their hands full trying to stop crime and keep our cities safe. But can you tell us what's being done to find and protect the children?
Well, look, unfortunately, it's been getting harder and harder to find these children. A lot of it is they need to go and try to find out these NGOs. So there was a lot of NGOs that were taking in taxpayer money. They were taking in a lot of the unaccompanied juveniles. They were the ones finding homes. And I really think we need to go after those individuals, find out their record keeping, find out where they were turning over the children to, who was taking over the children. There was a congressional hearing just recently, and Eli Crane, and you can find it, Congressman Eli Crane asked one of the ladies about a hotline. So there was a hotline that was established that these children could call. And there was essentially tens of thousands of calls made to this hotline that I will say only one person was in charge of answering the phone calls. And the thousands and thousands of calls that were received went unanswered. So I think there's so much more to it that we need to start looking into and finding out where these children are. At the same time, look, a lot of these cartels and smuggling organizations, they took advantage knowing that children were getting released. So many of them, when we say children, were at the ages of 16 and 17 years old. Of course, they're now over the age of 18 now. So those are going to be harder to find as well. But I'm telling you, it's been one heck of a mess. And I hate to say it because some people say it all the time. I hate to say, well, the last administration, they blamed the president before. But in this case, so much damage was made by the last administration when it comes to our nation's borders, when it comes to drug trafficking, when it comes to human smuggling, child trafficking, sex trafficking, so much damage that now that you do have an administration that's serious about taking care of our borders and all the other issues, they're playing catch up. They're having to go back and try to figure out and clean up the mess that was left by the last administration as well.
When you see or talk to any of the children, it must be clear that they've been through the trauma of migrating from home, wherever that was, and the effort that took. I remember seeing a lot of shots of the youngest of them wading through the water to get to Texas, trying to find shade in the 100-degree-plus temperatures. What do you say when you reach them?
It's frustrating. Look, it's been very frustrating when we've seen the children that have been crossing unaccompanied juveniles, and the frustration comes from, you ask some of these children, where is your mom? Where is your dad? And many of them say, well, I don't have a dad, or my mom's already in the United States. I've been in Mexico living with some relative for so many years, or what have you. But many of them are small. They've been really, really small children, under the age of 5. they were handed over to some smuggling organization, a coyote, as we say. That's the slang for the individual that crosses them. And they don't have any relative, they don't have anybody with them. I mean, they're under the age of 5, so some of them, they don't know how they're going to find a relative in the U.S. It's a very, very frustrating situation. It's been a frustrating situation for quite some time. And look, honestly, as cold-hearted as it sounds, we need to have serious criminal actions and consequences against the smuggling organizations, but at the same time, against the family members of these children that felt it normal to turn over their children to these smuggling organizations themselves.
Well, the psychological toll must be high. I mean, some of them are also under pressure to send money back home or to hand it over to whoever's controlling them or loaning them to the farms and factories. Do they just operate on fear?
Right, and then so you see that, right? You're seeing that when you're underage, you're going to go wherever your parents take you. That's just what ends up happening. They don't know any better, and you know they're being brought into some of these areas where they worked. We saw the marijuana farm. We all saw it. You know, it was the children out there. It's kind of upsetting that I don't think enough news media focused on that. They continued focusing on other things, and they should focus on that itself. These children were put in a very dangerous situation. Not only was it a marijuana field, okay, but they were out there in the middle of nowhere with, you don't know what kind of resources they have, were they being fed, how much water was being given. This is basically slave labor. And to have politicians out there that'll focus on, you know, oh, immigration or ICE was out there arresting these individuals, that's the wrong focus. You heard so much of them complaining about the children, and we all remember they would take pictures, or some of them were staged. I'll say it. Some of these pictures were staged of children next to a chain link fence and saying they were behind cages. All the while that happened during the Obama administration. I will remind everyone about that. But where is the outrage right now? Where is the outrage towards these underage, you know, individuals being crossed? Where's the outrage towards the millions of children that were crossed during the Biden administration, where the NGOs don't know who they handed off these children to? Where's the outrage towards hundreds and hundreds of calls being made to a hotline from children saying they feared for their life, or they were in fear with the individuals that they had been handed off to, and there was nothing done about it? Where is the outrage there?
Well, do these children ever have time to simply socialize with kids their own age, or any free time to recover from the work they're being asked to do?
Yeah, look, to my knowledge, they're just being taken out and they were working in those fields, and then they were brought back to wherever they were staying the night, and it was just a non-ending cycle.
Well, Art, would you please stay with us for another segment?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'd like to broaden this conversation out to some of the other issues. In the break, feel free to jump in at ajnow.com and send us an email with your thoughts about these children in need. We'll be revisiting this issue and would benefit from your input. I'll be right back. I'd like to extend a personal invitation to join us for our Culture and Christianity Conference. It's September the 19th and 20th on our campus here at World Outreach Church, just outside of Nashville. We've chosen 3 specific topics to explore with a wonderful group of guests. We're going to talk about the church and our expected impact in this culture, the media and their impact in our culture, and then finally, our health, how we can be healthy in the midst of all these competing voices we're hearing. The real goal is how we take our faith and integrate it in our world so we have better lives, stronger families, and strengthen our nation. Join us for Culture and Christianity here in Murfreesboro. Well, I'm back now with Art Cueto, the border advisor for the Federation for American Immigration Reform. Art, I assume that these children have to stop getting any education when they're forced to work in the fields or factories. Is there any effort to try to match these children up with their parents?
You're absolutely right. They haven't gotten any education. They've just been used pretty much for slave labor. That's what I call it. I mean, I don't know what else people want to call it. You know, these individuals they're forced to be out there working in those areas. So these individuals, these children will be taken into custody, and efforts will be made to try to find their parents. But you know what? Some of these children that you saw in the video, they were with their parents. And I think that there needs to be an effort. That's why I've been focusing on it and talking about it. There needs to be an effort to go after the parents for putting these children in that situation as well. You hear it on the news all the time. I'm in Arizona. The heat is crazy out here. You know, we hit 110, 120 degrees sometimes in the summertime. And every time you see a dog, okay, a canine in the back of a vehicle, people are outraged from both sides of the aisle, and they should be. But why is it when you have these children out there working and being put into slave labor, how come you're not hearing the outrage from the far left on this? This is when they should be screaming. It's not a one particular party problem or another particular party. I think we need to come together and realize that the open borders and the lawlessness that we've been seeing and we saw through many years has caused a lot of children's lives to be at risk. And we need to come together to try to help those kids.
With as many as 20 million people here illegally, ICE needs the help of local law enforcement. But that's not what's happening in some parts of the country. Listen to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem.
They are deciding that dangerous criminals that are murderers, rapists, money launderers, have committed assault, that are trafficking children, are more important than the families that live in the communities here.
Are there any of our government agencies that are outside of the arrest trying to protect the children?
Look, it's hard to see that. It's hard to tell. Unfortunately, until we start seeing actual consequences and arrests for those responsible, I'm not sure we're going to have any, effective change. DHS is working nonstop. ICE agents, Border Patrol agents, I'm in contact with them all the time. They're doing their best when they go out there and make all these arrests, but they're seeing a lot of obstacles from sometimes city officials, other politicians in a lot of these areas that have created that magnet to allow this lawlessness to continue to happen. And that's, I think, what the frustrating part is we're trying to keep taking steps forward and trying to fix the problem, but there sure is a lot of obstacles being placed up there by politicians that at the end of the day, I think all you can say is they have a hatred towards America, they have a hatred towards law enforcement, and they don't care about the children like they say they do.
Well, the work these young people are being forced to do is not all seen on the TV news. An unknown number of them have been sold into the sex trade. Are there any special efforts being made to root out those underground efforts?
There's a lot of intel. There's a lot of groups. HSI is working, nonstop, trying to make sure that they get the proper steps and find out where these children are. Find out, the criminal networks that are involved in this. And people need to understand, and it's been well documented. The cartels, the criminal network in Mexico, they've worked in 168 different countries worldwide. So, their criminal tentacles, they reach out far and wide. They have a lot of communication with each other. They have technology. They have everything you can think of because they've amassed billions and billions of dollars. So it is a never-ending fight. And people need to realize that the people that are on that side of the criminal side, they're not the knuckle draggers that you would expect. They're individuals that are very, very well versed in a lot of different areas of technology, and they know how to cover their tracks.
Well, when, and I suppose if, these children are eventually rescued, are there public or private agencies that can take them in and provide medical help, counseling, or anything else they may need?
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that they've looked at. There's medical. When these individuals are found, when these children are found, they receive the proper medical care. They make sure that they're evaluated before anything else happens. So they are being taken care of. The problem is we got to try to find them.
Well, before we run out of time, can you tell us what folks at home can do to help?
Absolutely. Look, if you see something weird in your neighborhood, don't be scared to call. Don't be scared to call 911 even and get the message out and make sure that, individuals, you don't know. You got to make sure that whatever you see happening in your neighborhood, whatever you see happening in a public place, in an airport, in any area of transportation, if it looks weird and something may be up, you may want to contact the authorities and get something out there, because that's how we're going to stop this. We need a group effort. Individuals out there, they say one person can make a difference. Look, one person can make a difference, but the more individuals that are active, the more individuals that are alert of things that are going on, you need to start reporting the issues that you see, because there's children's lives are at stake and adult lives are at stake as well.
Well, Art Del Cueto, thank you for your good work. Let's visit again when you've got more to report.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
In a moment, I'll provide my own guidance on what we can do to take care of the children. There is a way forward. And later, your emails. The inbox is full. I'll be right back. Hey, I want to give you a personal invitation to join my podcast, Culture and Christianity.
For a person to think that the Bible is not political, you don't know the Bible.
We're trying to understand how to take our faith outside the walls of the church and live it out in the marketplace.
He will show you what to do, whether it's in our communities, in our country, or other places in the world.
So I brought in some friends, some people that are trying to do this.
How could anyone call themselves Christian and be pro-choice? Is beyond my comprehension.
But I think he wanted them open and in need of him every day.
We have been living through a season of unprecedented deception, propaganda, manipulation.
Everybody says, oh, Israel is attacking schools in the Gaza Strip.
I want to be a part of seeing culture and Christianity intersect. Hope you enjoy the podcast. If you want to be significant in the kingdom of God, then your attitudes towards children matter. Significance in the kingdom requires a concern for the children, and not just my children, but all children. Well, as a nation, how do you think we're doing with this? During the previous administration, children were being trafficked across our borders, sold into sexual slavery in unprecedented numbers. A recent report from the Department of Homeland Security stated that immigration enforcement officials are unable to effectively track the whereabouts of over 600,000 unaccompanied children who crossed the southern border illegally since 2019. They've disappeared. We have no record of them. Think of the scope of that number for a moment, 600,000. To put it in perspective, approximately 95% of the counties in the United States have a population less than 500,000 people. It's just unimaginable, and we've shrugged. We've been busy. Well, this lack of concern for the children is not something new. Smut in our school libraries. Don't think it's only happening in major liberal cities. More than likely, it's happening right where you live. I did an interview with a lead animator for Disney recently. He said that Disney has a very clear goal that they're all trained for. Disney's goal is that by the time a child is 10 years old, the child should have an affinity for a Disney character and a song to go with it. If they meet that goal, Disney understands they have that child for life. He said when The Lion King was released, within 2 years, almost every child in the world knew a character and a song from that movie. Now, Disney's strategy isn't necessarily evil, but my point is, why should we be outpaced by Disney with our influence? We have the help of the Spirit of God. We can't be passive when it comes to the children. I assure you, God takes children very seriously, and He has a plan for every young life. You know, prior to the birth of John the Baptist, God had both a name and a very clear assignment selected for him. Well, I believe that's true for every child. Every life is known by God, even before conception. This is relevant. It's a truth in the midst of our current culture. We as Christ followers have a biblical assignment to stand on behalf of those who don't have a voice. If we'll do that, there's reason for hope. We'll be right back with your emails. Thank you for spending a few minutes of your day with us. It's always an honor to be able to share some time. If you miss a live show, you can always go to ajnow.com. There's an archive there. You can see all the episodes, even share them with a friend. Thanks for your emails. They're a highlight. Kathy commented on YouTube, What a wonderful show tonight with Senator Tim Scott. One Nation, Always Under God. Excellent book title, Senator Scott. Two of the greatest Christians on the same show, reflecting the love of Christ in America. We're truly blessed. All glory to God. Thank you both. I agree. I think that's an amazing title, and it is a good book. Dan from Illinois wrote, thank you, Pastor Allen, for all you do, and most of all, for unashamedly speaking the truth. If more churches had pastors like you, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in. You said it best with the following regarding cowardice. The problem in our world is not the depravity of the wicked, it's the indifference in the hearts of the faithful. I believe that to be true, but I also think it's changing. I believe God is waking us up. He's shaking the earth, and the objective is to awaken His people to take our place in this most unique point in human history. Greg Z. in Washington asked, do you think that when we get to heaven, we will receive a gift of omnipresence, allowing us to view historic events? It would be so cool. Well, I don't know about that gift, Greg, but I promise you when we get to heaven, we'll have gifts and abilities that will be cool. God has something better than I'm certain I can imagine. I just want to be certain I get to be a part of that. Then Catherine from Jacksonville, Florida. She questioned the murders in the church in Africa where the children were beheaded in front of the parents and all were killed. How do you pray for these enemies? Well, I think one way we can pray is for mercy, mercy in their lives and mercy for any children that they might encounter, that they'll be protected from that murderous, violent spirit. You know, we live in such a protected world in this nation. We have attitudes towards comfort and convenience that most of the world doesn't even understand. And I believe we have a responsibility to pray for the children in the world and the people in the world. You know, it wasn't too long ago in American history where we had a heart to take the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ, to the nations of the world because we believe the gospel brought civilization. It brought more civil behavior to people's lives. I believe that's true, and I believe our church in this nation needs to wake up. Thank you for spending your time with us today. God is moving in the earth. I want to be a part of that, and I believe you do too. I'm Alan Jackson, and I pray you have a wonderful evening.